Fuck you! Shut the fuck up, bitch! Oof, this is gonna be a hard one to discuss, since this is a channel that while working on the script, I ended up feeling like I was looking out for Bigfoot in San Andreas again. Because not only is TeamFourStar a channel that I truly enjoy to this day, but with the knowledge that I have, I think I am capable of doing things differently for these final two channels of this marathon in order to properly end on a bit of a high note. So with that, I'm going to talk about not only the channel TeamFourStar, but the content creators individually, at least as far as I know about them beyond just TFS Entertainment. And just as a heads up, in case, as I have mentioned through the entire marathon, I am talking about the content creator and the channel, not the person, regardless of how much they interact on social media and streams. I am still talking about Kaiser Neko, Lani Petor, and Takahara 101 for example, instead of Scott, Nick, and Curtis respectively, since at the end of the day, I don't know them outside of their content. I'd love to, but I don't. And I want to keep that one boundary clear no matter what I say in this video. TeamFourStar began out of passion for the abridged community. In fact, at least the main trio of the company, Kaiser, Lani, and Taka, were already working on projects of their own, with Kaiser working on Lupin and Lani with Yu Yu Hakusho. Taka, on the other hand, at least from what I found through research, he was merely a supporting cast. You will find his voice on multiple abridged projects, that's what I mean. And one day, Kaiser and Lani decided to form a team in order to create DVCA, or in better words, Kaiser wanted to create a collective effort for it with Lani, and Lani agreed to it as long as he became part of the head team and to be the permanent voice of Vegeta. I will not go and tackle DVCA as a whole, since that deserves its own online wonder section, as well as the fact that there are channels that are way better at talking about the series, with Totally Not Mark making a collaborative interview documentary on the series. Check it out! Unfortunately, due to the overall environment of YouTube changing and becoming more pro-corporation and anti-creative freedom, they ended up finishing the show a la Budokai style, with covering everything until the Android saga. And I enjoyed the series and its spin-offs like the movies and Cell Versus all the way through. Nowadays, I don't laugh as much as I used to, but that's merely time passing after re-watching them for years on end. But I think it's the aftermath of this where the real fun comes, because honestly, while DVCA deserves all of the praise it has gotten to this day, it's just one show, and they're aiming to be more than that. I'm not saying that they want to be the next Machinima or Rooster Teeth or whatever you want to label it, but they want to be more than just a channel with DVCA on it. And that's where a lot of the varied content comes forward. So let's start with TFS Gaming. By this point, there was already additional people in the team like Kieran and Grant, who have such a great dynamic with how they interact and make their Let's Plays fun. And it's an organic kind of fun despite each part having a set of time. And I adore the first set of Pokemon Nuzlocke runs. They were so fun to just hear them flip out on every possible risk of losing, as well as the birth of Mr. Steak, who ended up having a legacy in Lani's dock. It should be mentioned that Kieran has been giving his all to the development of a card game he had in mind for years by now, so if you're into game development and card games, please consider giving him a watch, not to mention that he's all about fun before anything else. There are games that may not be the most critically acclaimed out there, but if they're fun, then that's all that matters, which I completely support. In fact, it was because of him that I made a Great Line episode about fun versus good, which I hope you guys enjoyed. Grant, on the other hand, well, he's also a guy that enjoys fun over other things. He's more technical. In fact, I think he's more of a fighting encyclopedia guy, given his knowledge on Evo and everything surrounding the fighting game community. But to be fair, I'm the complete opposite and might as well be blown away by someone that knows anything about it. And throughout that time, I also discovered Zito, a guy that has a search for gems in the indie community and the Dungeon Master for their D&D sessions. And boy, he's a Dungeon Master indeed. He explains everything about the world of Dungeons and Dragons in a way that I actually considered playing it at some point. Then I remember I actually have no idea how to play and decided to just stay away from it because that thing scares me to my core. It should also be worth mentioning that if you still want content related to Dragon Ball, they are working on a few shorts, as well as their voice of Goku, Masako X, has made his content around Dragon Ball discussions and what if scenarios. They do fall a bit into a biased narrative for my liking, but I can still recommend people to check them out if they're into Dragon Ball scenarios, with their Raditz Turning Good being one of my favorites. Then there's Ben Crichton, who is pretty much this channel's godfather and gave me time to make our first episode of the Grey Line, which I'm still proud of doing to this day despite feeling like I have improved way more since then, and if I remake any video, that interview will be my first. And he's been working on his book as well as his own content nowadays. Check him out. He nails it with the quality. Fucking nailed it. And with that, there was also 4-Star Bento, which was their talk show to discuss anime, and the format was great, but I think we're fine with just having the current discussion videos that they currently have instead of forcing things to fit a schedule. Lani Petore is all about self-care and self-improvement, to love yourself and treat yourself like you will treat anyone else afterwards. And he puts such a heart in everything he does to the point where sometimes he can get too passionate about it, but that makes watching him way more enjoyable since it's always very organic, and he's shown several times that he cares about his audience and his content, as well as the image he wants to have as a content creator. Taka, you're way more valuable than what you give yourself credit, man. He continues to provide voices on a lot of abridged projects, and in this year, he started to work on the virtual tuber field with his bar, The Wary 101, which has been very fun to enjoy and to see him growing more and more. And as he has said in the past, life isn't a race, it's a marathon. And then there's the Taka Spat Show, which was one of the first post-DBCA shows that they started. And talk about a first impression, I don't know if it's because of my age or preference, but out of all the content on TFS, nowadays this is my favorite, and I listen to them every single day when I'm working. I don't watch all of them because some of them are very specific in terms of content, like good luck trying to enjoy a podcast about a series that you have no idea nor interest on it. And I know it's kind of a sacrilegious thing to say that I love something from TFS more than DBCA, but my rebuttal is this: I don't like TFS because of DBCA. I love TeamFourStar because of the people that work on it and the passion in every project. In other words, I love TFS because of TFS. There is a quality and a standard to expect with everything they do in terms of comedy, sense of humor, and dynamic between each of them. I love the ones that are just general discussions of several topics, like the 2020 retrospective that Lani did with Taka, and it was throughout the show as well as the discussion streams that I got to see people like Brian and Stefan, to which I don't really have much to say since I only got to know from them with the stuff they do on TFS. And I do enjoy that Brian is also an encyclopedia on a lot of geek-related cultures, although Stefan can be a bit of a factual opinion speaking that I have mentioned in other videos, in which by that I mean that he can come off as someone that shares his thoughts as if they were a matter of fact. And again, that's not a reflection on him as a person that I don't know beyond TFS and his Pirates of the Caribbean videos.
Some women like propositioning Sora for sex.
You gotta Disneyland it up.
Sure, I'll open your heart.
You gotta...
But going back on the Taka Spot Show, I love the discussions, I love the dynamic that they have with one another depending on the topic, and it even allows me to get a different perspective on things while still keeping my own thoughts. And I am completely looking forward to a lot of the stuff that was on hiatus. Unabridged feels like that proper showcase of what I mean by liking TFS because of TFS. The quality and the writing gives me the same joy that I had when I watched DBCA back in college. Diesel Dust looked interesting and Fistmaster is also filled with potential, but I cannot talk about those since one it's a pilot and the other's been only 2 episodes so far. And there's also a lot of interesting one-off videos like X and X Minutes, which is a renewed version of abridging shows. Also, Time Wizards, please watch that. Please watch that thing. It's incredible. I love the improvised script and animation. It's just amazing. Please give it the support.
I think you're from somewhere else. Is it the red hair?
Well, we have been traveling incognito. Okay, I try to use my power.
As well as some very interesting videos like Leak Sim editing and Sonic live action videos made by... Okay, if I really didn't want to do this, I wouldn't be writing this script. And please let me repeat once more. What I'm about to say is my own personal experience, and I'm just a guy on the internet trying to make online content for a living. As well as the fact that these are thoughts on Kaiser Neko, not Scott. I don't know him as a person, and I respect him as such 100%. And I'll try my best to not take anything here out of context at the expense of the length of this video. With that said, Kaiser Neko is probably the content creator that has inspired me the most in terms of what I want to create and how much do I need to learn. Back when they made their Dragon Ball Super review on Anime FMK, he made a quote that, regardless if I have managed to live up to it, I strongly believe to it to this day.
As a very astute reviewer once said, and I wish I could remember her name, just because you love something unconditionally does not mean you love it better. It just means you love it sadder. I will never sit here and say that's bad and not explain why, and I will never hold it against somebody for liking it, even if I look them in the face and say it's bad. And I will also not sit over here saying, but it's just my opinion, because of course it's just my opinion.
It kind of goes without saying.
I'm a guy on the internet. You don't need to listen to me and be offended when I say it's bad. Listen to me and say, well, he thinks it's bad. Good, we're in agreement.
That entire clip has been in my mind every time I work on something for the Gray Line. Now, that's not to say that I have nothing negative to say about him. Sometimes he can sound extremely condescending towards both the audience and topics that either he really doesn't know more than the average person, or are just not worded the best way, something that I completely relate.
First of all, they made it about, you gotta catch them all. That was the fucking tagline from the beginning.
It is what it is.
Also, I want to point out, yes, I know gotta catch them all isn't a thing in the Japanese version. It's just get Pokemon. That's all they say. Pokemon get dotaze.
The big
I know.
The big thing
I
that
know, but it's still a huge part of the marketing in the US.
You should.
I know. The
big
thing.
Yeah,
I'll
stop
say this.
looking at it.
The bit in the end.
I
use my own.
was trying to get to a point.
Oh, you were taking a long time. Though.
I know. Because I like to state my point quickly so people can't deconstruct me.
Oh, I want to do that though.
Yeah.
Can you imagine him taking the fun out of my fun out of my part of the interview?
Absolutely.
Okay, maybe he does it a lot, but it will be hypocritical of me to really go negative about something like that, since it's just part of having a voice on the internet, especially when whatever critical thought that can come to mind, they probably already have them in their minds thanks to the world of comment section. As someone that loves to write and produce and just make content, whenever I see the little details he adds on a clip, the passion in which he expresses his thoughts on a lot of topics, the mere idea of going above and beyond when trying to sell a show, there's just so much good stuff that I have taken from watching their content, as well as from everyone on this list, that I just don't want to talk about negative stuff. Don't get me wrong, when there's something negative that I need to talk about, I will do it. On the Gray Line, the show that I have made specifically to talk about any kind of topic in every way possible, with no boundaries beyond just not having a malicious intention while talking to you guys. A lot of people probably wish I was more controversial in a marathon that's a celebration to my life on YouTube as a consumer and as a producer, but if I wanted to be a negative for a month, I'd make reaction videos on Angry Joe, Daft Pina, and Turkey Tom, only for me to just roll my eyes and not say anything. Because I don't want to make videos that are just criticizing for the sake of somehow feeling better about myself. I want to talk about all of the channels, and I mean all the channels that are bringing something good to the table, that inspire, create, innovate, improve, and show to the world that online media is more than just memes and drama, that the next generation of artists is inside the online community, and that it should be respected the same way as traditional works. Because hey, it was because of the inspiration and motivation that I got from these channels that I managed to work on television, newspaper, and radio, to the point where by the time they simply got rid of me because they could, I had the knowledge and tools to at least make these projects to entertain you guys. And having that sense of purpose is what I am grateful to TeamFourStar, as well as the rest of these creators, for the work that they did and the passion they put into it. With one more channel remaining for this marathon.